All right, well this is going to be a little bit of a, as Paul Pluta would say, a combo meal. I'm going to talk about the accuracy on the Snowflake after 1 month of use. I'm going to roll that clip in so you can see it's within maybe 3 seconds or so. This is the Snowflake that I bought new from Little Treasury Jewelers 1 month ago. I think it's actually officially 1 month tomorrow, but this is the day that I have that I can shoot the video. So that, obviously, the accuracy is just amazing. The accuracy on the diver watch is even more amazing. I posted a video recently, I think it was the 4-month update on this video, and it's like spot on, like right on the second or within a half a second. So this one's even more accurate than the Snowflake. Snowflake looks like it's going to be plus 3 seconds or so a month, which is fantastic. And of course, a lot of folks chime in the comments that accuracy doesn't matter. We don't buy watches for accuracy. Well, I do. Accuracy matters to me. And there's one thing that a lot of people don't think about when they think about accuracy, and that is wear and tear on the watch. Every time you have to unscrew that crown and adjust the time, and screw that crown back down, that's wear and tear on those threads. And these people that switch off watches all the time and they're always unscrewing the crown to get the watch running again and wind it up and so on, that's all wear and tear. That's additional wear and tear on that mechanism. So I like a watch that I only have to unscrew that crown when the month has less than 31 days to change that date. And that's going to be less wear and tear over the life of the watch. And while we're talking about wear and tear, I want to backplow a little bit to the servicing video that I put out recently that's gotten a lot of comments, and a lot of folks have chimed in and disagree with my position that you should service the watch when it's giving trouble, when it's running slow or otherwise giving trouble. Send your Rolex or your Grand Seiko in for servicing at that point in time. That could be 20 years. You might have bought the watch and it might be 20 years old, and that's the first time it's given any trouble, and you send it in for service and Rolex fixes it. I've had people chime in the comments saying, no, service it every 5 years, regardless of how it's performing, because parts wear. You don't want the parts to wear. You want them to be lubricated properly, like a car. Would you drive a car 10 years without having the oil changed? I've put some comments in the comment section of that video, and I may put them in the description, I mean. But the bottom line is the watch is not a car, okay? You cannot compare it to a vehicle. My vehicle that I'm driving right now is a 2004 Prius that's garage kept. It only has about 120,000 miles on it. It's always been serviced as far as the fluids. The fluids I change about every 2 years, every fluid in the car, including brake fluid, coolant, everything. And then about every 5,000 miles, I change the engine oil, and I run synthetics in all those fluids. I run Mobil 1 for the oil. The car's in great shape. It runs great, no issues. It'll run for many, many more years. Servicing a car is different than servicing a watch. And the huge difference is Rolex, when you send your Rolex in to be serviced, what they're going to do is they're going to quote you a service fee. And sometimes they're going to try to sell you like a face and hands and things like that, which you shouldn't do unless it really needs it, because it hurts the value of the watch to not have those things original. But that aside, the upsell items aside, what they're going to do is they're going to quote you a price to service that watch. And when they say service, they mean take the whole watch apart, examine everything, and bring it back to specs. That means if a little part has some wear on it, they're going to replace that part. And guess what? They quote you the price before they fully disassemble the watch and examine all those parts. So you're going to pay the same amount regardless of whether or not they replace a small little part that's worn or not. And some people have put comments in saying that no, if you go years and different parts are worn and so forth, it's going to cost a fortune to fix it, and it won't even be repairable and all these things. I don't see any evidence of that at all. And if you look at the comments on the video that I put out regarding servicing, it's got 50,000 views in less than a couple of weeks. And you look at the comments on there, there are a lot of people that agree with me that have brought their watches in for service after many years, and they service them and they're fine. And the prices are the same. Let's run over the numbers again real quick here. So those of you that are a little bit, maybe not that good with numbers, I'm not great with numbers, but these numbers speak for themselves. Let's say that you have a watch for 20 years. And let's say that you service it every 5 years. And let's use the number of $500. It's going to be more than that, but let's just use the number for $500 just so we have a nice round number to work with. After the first 5 years, you spend $500, okay? And versus the person who doesn't service it, they spend $0, okay? 5 years later, now we're at 10 years life on the watch. You spend another $500. You've spent $1,000 now. The person who doesn't service it has spent $0. Okay, so the person who doesn't service the watch is ahead by $1,000 at this point. You might think, but you'll be wrong, and I'll explain why. Another 5 years goes by, you spend another $500. So you've spent $1,500 out of pocket, and the person who doesn't service the watch has spent $0. Another 5 years goes by, you're going to spend another $500, and so now you're $2,000 out of pocket. So let's say at this point, the person who didn't service their watch needs to send theirs in because it's running slow. It's 20 years old. I'm using 20 years as an example because my day-date is 20 years old and it still runs fine. It hasn't been serviced. So let's say I sent it in a year from now and I got it serviced. It isn't going to cost $2,000 to have it serviced. Okay? It's going to cost about the same as if I sent it in every 5 years for servicing. It's still going to be $500. And again, that $500 is just an example number. It's probably, Rolex service is probably more like $800 or $1,000 now. But we're just using 500 as an example. Now, let's back up again. The person who spent the $2,000 on servicing, they didn't spend $2,000. You're forgetting about a huge aspect of this. Money that is invested should double about every 7 years if it's invested well in good growth stock mutual funds, something like that. Getting about 10% a year, a hair over 10% a year average, right? It doubles every 7 years. So the first $500 that you spent, if you would have invested that instead, 7 years later, that's doubled to $1,000, okay? The other $500 that you spent at 10 years, in 7 years, that doubled as well. So if you add all of that money into the equation, now all of a sudden you're $2,000-$3,000, actually more than $3,000 it looks like that you've spent if you add it all up. So we're talking about a lot of money here on the fringe case. And again, I've not heard this happen. I've not heard Rolex call somebody back and say, hey, we're sorry, our initial estimate is not correct. We've examined the parts and you've got some worn parts. It's going to be $4,500 to fix your watch. I haven't heard about this. And if somebody's had this happen to them, please let me know. Share it in the comments. Because from all the comments I've seen and from my personal experience, I bought a watch used, a 3/4 size Datejust with a white gold bezel that had water damage. And I knew it when I bought it. I got a really good buy on it. This was, 20 years ago. And, 30 years ago probably. Oh, geez, 35 years ago. But anyway, a long time ago. And I bought the watch and I took it to Rolex New York and I had them service it. And I did pay extra because the face was damaged and the hands were straight up damaged. And so they did put a new face on, new dial and new hands and a bunch of other stuff. And it was expensive to have it serviced, but it wasn't like 4 or 5 times as much as a normal watch to be serviced because of the water damage. It was just because more parts needed to be replaced that would not normally be included in the service. The dial and the hands are not included in the normal service. But it's not like the technician said to me, oh my God, this thing's had water damage so we can't even fix it, or it's had water damage, it's going to be 10 times as much to fix it. That didn't happen. They just fixed the damn watch. I'm sorry, that's what they do. And there are people that say that the actual cost of building a Rolex sport watch is about $700. And the rest of what you pay, when you pay $8,000 or $9,000 these days for a watch, most of that is markup and dealer profit and advertising and so on and so forth. So the bottom line is these parts in this movement are not really that expensive. It's not like they cost a fortune. And so that's all built into the price when they service the watch. So I hate to belabor this, but there's been so many comments on this that I just had to address it again and try to explain to people why they're wasting their money if they're having their watch serviced every 5 years when it is running fine. Okay, so let's not beat that dead horse anymore. So let me get my spectacles here and just go over my little working list here of things I wanted to address in this. Somebody made a comment that Grand Seiko, that they're just going to really take off now and give Rolex a run for their money and so on and so forth. If the quality of the watch was the determining factor of that, then I would agree, absolutely. They'll give Rolex a run for their money and so on. But the problem is Grand Seiko are clueless when it comes to marketing. Their marketing is terrible, whereas Rolex's marketing is off the chart unbelievable. So although Grand Seiko in many ways is a better watch, I don't see it anytime soon eclipsing Rolex on the world stage as far as sales or awareness or brand or anything like that. The other thing, Grand Seiko, in my opinion, makes too many limited edition watches. They should do like Rolex, and they should stick to certain core models and then occasionally come out with a different face or different bezel, like the Datejust, for example. You could get different bezels, you could get different dials. I keep saying face, I should say dial. That's cool, but it's still a Datejust. It's still that brand. So that's what Grand Seiko should be thinking about, is how can I have anchor watches that are sort of like my main brand, my main model, like the Snowflake. The problem with the Snowflake is it specifically is talking about a particular watch with a particular dial, whereas the Datejust can have any dial combination in different hands and a different bezel, and so that's what they need. Grand Seiko needs distinctive models, segments if you will, and then make some variations on that meet different needs for people, and that's what they have not done. They're just kind of all over the place with their models, and almost all of them have the sword hands, right, which have no lume on them, which they need a watch that's like an Explorer one that has lume on it, that has like the form factor of the Snowflake, but a dial that's more readable and more sport-like. So if I was going to have a perfect watch and I wanted to have two watches, unfortunately they don't make the perfect watches yet. I would love to have this watch, this diver's watch, also built in a GMT form, okay, just like the Rolex GMTII. It would have the same spring drive in it. It would be a GMT. It would be thinner, okay? This watch I think looks good on the wrist, and I'll roll in some wrist shots, but it could stand to be a little bit thinner. What else? Oh, and also the diver version, this diver version should be a millimeter or two thinner. This is, I think, 14 millimeters. It'd be nice if it was like 12.5 millimeters, something like that. Now I'm nitpicking, I'm trying to create here the perfect watch, right? They should also, in addition to the titanium, which I love, They should also make this in 18 karat yellow gold. Okay. Again, Rolex is successful for a reason. They do these things for a reason, right? They also, to have the perfect watch, they also need to make a snowflake in 18 karat gold for somebody who wants that, okay? Somebody who wants something that's really flashy, really impressive. They should make the snowflake in all 18 karat gold. I know they make a watch that has an 18 karat gold case with a leather strap band, but I haven't seen one with the bracelet and everything all 18 karat gold. It may be available, but I sure as heck have not seen it. The other thing for the perfect watch is I like the micro adjustments on the diver. I think all watches should have some kind of a micro adjustment, either the sliding system that Rolex has. I don't mind the pins that you push in and you slide it down, you know, because you only usually have to do that once a year when the seasons change or whatever, the micro adjustments. I do like the fact that this watch has both the adjustment here and then also the extension that I can extend very easily on the fly. I do like that it in effect has both, so that I can once a year or so just adjust the micro adjustment and then from time to time as needed use the extension bracelet. So I think that's a downside to Rolex in that they don't really have that. It's like one or the other. You don't have both. Now, having said that, I think that they could refine this whole mechanism. I've talked about this class before and I've gotten used to it because of the functionality. I really like the functionality, but I think that they could refine this and get it to where it's a little more Grand Seiko-like. And we're talking about the perfect watch. Another thing, I'm very interested in the Day-Date 40 Rolex, specifically probably with a black dial, gold loomed hands. I think that'll be more readable than the silver dial on my 18238 Day-Date is just not readable in low light. That's why I almost never wear it anymore. The Day-Date 40 has the newer movement in it, 70-hour power reserve. It has the ceramic sleeves in the bracelet, the President bracelet, so that should not have the stretch issues that earlier watches had. So they have some major improvements on that watch, and of course it's a bigger watch. It's a 40 millimeter, so it's going to be the same size roughly as this is 41 millimeter as the Snowflake, and which is nice because the dial on the Snowflake, believe it or not, is the same size as the dial on the diver's watch. Because the diver's watch is 44 millimeter, but again the diver's watch has the bezel around it, which means that the actual face that's displaying the time on these two watches is pretty much identical if you measure the two. So a Day-Date 40 would be the perfect dress, sport. You know, Day-Date is just a fantastic all-around watch in my opinion. I wore one for many years. That was my main watch that I wore all the time. The only reason I'm wearing Grand Seikos right now is because it's a superior movement, let's face it.
Now, I gotta tell you, when you're talking snowflakes themselves there, what's my opinion? The watch is absolutely amazing. The Grand Seiko Snowflake is, it's a piece of horological excellence. That's what it is. I mean, I'm a Swiss watch man myself. I love my Swiss watches. Love my Patek, love my Reverso, Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso. I love my Rolex. Love my Omega, love my IWC, love my Brega. Yeah. But you'd have to be an idiot. You'd have to be an absolute moron if you said the Snowflake was a shitter. The Snowflake is so far ahead of the Swiss, it's not funny.
It would be fantastic if Rolex swallowed their pride a little bit and licensed the Spring Drive movement from Seiko, from Grand Seiko, and built a 40 millimeter Day-Date with the spring drive system, I would buy it instantly. Instantly, that would be my wear all the time, perfect watch. I would most likely sell both of these Grand Seikos and just wear the 40mm Day-Date with the spring drive, with the Grand Seiko Spring Drive all the time. Unless, of course, Grand Seiko were to build something like it. But really, they don't have anything like the Day-Date. Let's face it, the Day-Date is the Day-Date. It's an icon. It's a gorgeous watch. It's comfortable. The way the President bracelet conforms to your wrist and all, it's extremely comfortable. Now, of course, because it's 18 karat gold, it is heavier, but the way it conforms to the wrist and the bracelet design and all that, even though it's heavy, it's a very comfortable watch. Much more comfortable than, for example, a Rolex sport watch with the Oyster bracelet. I've had both, and I know the Day-Date's much more comfortable. So I guess, you know, we're going on for like 20 minutes now. I guess what I'm saying is there is really no perfect watch. For a two-watch combination, the diver's watch, the Grand Seiko Diver right here, and the Snowflake, these two are pretty close to a perfect two-watch rotation for something real sporty, something a little dressier, both extremely comfortable on wrist. And by the way, the other thing I want to address is the titanium. People keep saying that titanium is softer than steel. Many titanium watches, that's correct. Not Grand Seiko. Grand Seiko is this titanium here. They actually have two different types, alloys that they use. This is 1.5 times harder than the stainless steel that Rolex uses. It is harder, tougher stuff, harder to scratch. So get it out of your minds that all titanium is soft. Regular, normal titanium, pure titanium or whatever you want to call it, is softer than stainless steel. Not this alloy that Grand Seiko uses. It's tough stuff. So these two watches really are the perfect sport combo as far as something really sporty, really heavy duty, and something a little dressier that you can wear as an all-around gorgeous watch. It's hard to beat this rotation right here. The only thing that you could beat this with, like I say, would be something that doesn't exist. And that would be like a Day-Date 40 with a spring drive in it. So, hey, share your comment. And that's the only reason why I don't buy a Day-Date 40 today, is the accuracy of the movement. It's just not that accurate. And I've gotten spoiled. I've gotten spoiled with these spring drive watches that are just spot on accurate, and I can trust them. I love being able to trust my watch. And just in looking at that second hand, that silky smooth second hand go around is just also kind of mesmerizing. But anyway, thanks for watching. Like, comment, and share. As you know, I try to reply to every comment. And I hope this video addressed some of the concerns and some of the things that people are talking about. And I hope those of you that keep chiming in saying you got to get your watch serviced every 5 years, get a calculator, do the math, realize how much money you're wasting doing that. Invest your money. Let your money work for you over time, especially those of you that are younger. That doubling every 7 years, that is powerful stuff. So put some money away in some good high-quality investments. Let it ride long-term. And then when you get to be my age, when you buy one of these watches, it's just going to be like just buying something. It's going to be no big deal financially. It'll just be like 1 week's salary, you know, just going to buy a watch, right? So anyway, thanks again for watching. Subscribe, click the little bell, all those good things.